Picture this, your neighborhood after a hurricane, just leveled, everything's gone, but instead of this daunting prospect of rebuilding the old way, like you have this chance to do something radically different,
Yeah,
something better. And that's what's so cool about 3D printed homes. So we're diving into it today for you.
exciting.
Yeah, we've got some incredible sources lined up, including an interview with Sal Ferrari from SQ4D.
Okay.
They're a company at the forefront of this whole technology. And we've also got research on the evolution of 3D printing in construction in general.
It's really interesting stuff. We're not just talking about some niche technology here. This has the potential to like completely reshape the entire housing landscape as we know it.
Yeah, for sure. So, okay, let's unpack this. SQ4D's approach is fascinating. They're not just printing walls, they're aiming to print over 50% of the entire structure. So we're talking foundations, insulation, even roofs.
It's pretty amazing. They use this massive robotic arm that extrudes concrete, and it builds layer by layer based on digital architectural plans. And what's really interesting is they're not using some fancy, expensive concrete mix. They're using readily available materials, which has huge implications for affordability
Right.
down the line.
Yeah, affordability is huge and the speed is, it's mind-blowing. They can print a 2,000 square foot house in under 30 days.
Under 30 days.
That's insane. That's a fraction of the time it takes with traditional construction.
Yeah, think about what that could mean for disaster relief or for addressing housing shortages.
I know, it's
Pretty
crazy.
huge.
Absolutely. The speed and the efficiency are definitely game changers, but there's more to it than just that. These homes are incredibly resilient. Concrete, by its very nature, is resistant to so many things: fire, floods, earthquakes, mold, even termites. It's true, it's a huge advantage, especially in areas that are prone to natural disasters.
Right.
But concrete often gets a bad rap environmentally. So how does that play into the sustainability aspect of these homes?
Yeah, that's a valid concern. The initial production of concrete does have a carbon footprint. You can't get around that. However, think about the lifespan of these 3D printed homes. They're built to last potentially for centuries.
Wow.
And that incredible durability combined with minimal waste during construction could actually make them more sustainable than traditional homes in the long run.
It's kind of counterintuitive,
Yeah.
right? But it makes sense when you consider the whole life cycle. And there's another aspect of sustainability, too, that we haven't even talked about yet: precision.
Absolutely. 3D printing removes a lot of that human error that you just find in traditional construction. The homes are built exactly to spec, which can lead to better energy efficiency, fewer materials are wasted because of mistakes. It all adds up.
Yeah, it all adds up. So we're talking about stronger homes, more sustainable homes, and then potentially even more affordable homes.
Yeah.
But let's be realistic. What about the concerns that people might have? Cost, for example, 3D printed homes are still relatively new, so they might seem expensive up front.
That's true. But remember, SQ4D is using those widely available concrete mixes, and the construction process itself is streamlined. It requires less labor. So as the technology matures and we see economies of scale kicking in, we can expect those costs to become more competitive.
That makes sense. Another concern might be design limitations. People might picture these like boxy cookie cutter homes. And how well does this technology work on, say, a hilly terrain?
Yeah, I think people have this idea that they'll all look the same, but the design possibilities are actually far greater than you might think.
Really?
Yeah, the software they use allows for incredibly intricate and unique architectural features.
Wow.
You can have curved walls, cantilevered balconies, pretty much anything an architect can dream up.
That's amazing.
As for hilly terrain, the current technology can handle a certain degree of incline. Extremely steep sites might still pose a challenge, but it's something that they're constantly working to improve.
So you're saying that we could actually see 3D printed homes that are not only functional but also aesthetically pleasing?
Absolutely. This technology is pushing the boundaries of what's possible with concrete, both in terms of form and function. And it's not just SQ4D doing this.
Right.
There's a whole ecosystem of companies and researchers that are pushing the boundaries of 3D printing in construction.
Okay, so it's not just a one company show.
Right.
But before we dive into that broader landscape, let's take a quick step back in time. I was so surprised to learn that the idea of 3D printed homes isn't entirely new.
That's right. In fact, the seeds were planted way back in 1941 with William E. Herschel
Wow.
and his invention, the wall building machine. It was actually designed for rapidly building bomb shelters during World War II. But the core concept, laying down concrete layer by layer, is strikingly similar to what we see today.
It's amazing how innovation often builds upon ideas from the past.
Absolutely. It shows that sometimes the solutions to our present challenges can be found in reimagining and refining ideas from our past, particularly when paired with advancements in technology like we see today. What other innovations are happening in the field beyond just concrete? What about alternative materials?
Well, That's a great question because there are some very interesting developments happening with 3D printing and materials like clay. Let's talk more about that and other innovations like using swarms of drones to build.
Let's do that because we're talking about more than just building houses here. We're talking about a potential revolution in how we approach construction, both here on Earth and even beyond.
So we've talked about concrete, but you mentioned 3D printing with clay. Why is that gaining traction? What's the appeal there?
Clay is a fascinating material. It's natural, abundant, renewable, and has a much lower carbon footprint compared to concrete. And in many parts of the world, it's a traditional building material.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, so there's a familiarity and a cultural relevance there.
And aesthetically, I imagine it lends itself to some beautiful, organic-looking designs.
You're absolutely right. The texture and the color of clay create a more earthy and natural feel,
Mm-hmm.
which is really appealing to a lot of people. It combines sustainability with a sense of craftsmanship.
That makes a lot of sense. But what about the technical challenges? Is printing with clay as straightforward as printing with concrete?
It's not quite a simple swap. Clay has its own quirks. It needs to be mixed with the right amount of water and stabilizing agents to make it printable.
I see.
And then there's the drying and curing process, which needs to be carefully managed to ensure that structural integrity.
Right.
It's a more delicate process in some ways.
So there are hurdles, but the potential benefits in terms of sustainability and aesthetics are driving innovation in this area.
Precisely. And we're seeing companies developing specialized 3D printers and clay mixtures specifically designed for construction. It's definitely an area to watch closely.
Now let's talk about something that sounds straight out of science fiction. Using swarms of drones to 3D print homes. How does that even work?
It's an exciting area of research. Picture this, a team of drones working in concert extruding building material, layer by layer, creating complex structures with incredible speed and precision.
Okay, that's wild. What are the advantages of using drones over a robotic arm like SQ4D uses?
Well, it would be revolutionary for construction in remote areas or disaster zones where access is difficult. Imagine being able to airlift a swarm of drones and building materials to a disaster-stricken area and rapidly construct shelters.
That would be a game changer.
Yeah, and think about the possibilities for architectural design. You could create structures that would be impossible to build with traditional methods. We're talking about pushing the boundaries of what's even conceivable.
Okay, before we get too far ahead of ourselves, let's circle back to SQ4D for a moment. We mentioned earlier that you listened to Sal Ferrari's interview on the bond. What stood out to you from that conversation?
His passion was palpable. He's not just a CEO, he's someone who lived through the devastation of Hurricane Sandy. He lost his home.
Wow.
And that experience fuels his drive to make a difference.
Yeah, you could really sense that personal connection
Yeah.
when he talked about it. It wasn't just theoretical for him, it was deeply personal.
Exactly. It gives his work a sense of urgency and purpose. He sees 3D printed homes as a way to rebuild communities stronger and more resiliently. He also addressed the misconception that concrete is inherently unsustainable.
Mm.
He talked about how the incredible lifespan of these homes can offset that initial carbon footprint.
It's a different way of looking at it considering the entire life cycle of the structure. He also emphasized how 3D printing removes human error, making these homes potentially safer.
That's a crucial point, especially in earthquake-prone areas or regions with extreme weather events. Having that level of precision in construction can be life-saving. It's about ensuring structural integrity, that the rebar is placed exactly where it needs to be. Every detail matters.
And he also talked about the design flexibility, how 3D printing can create these unique and complex designs. They're even building a house with a rooftop helipad right now.
It really challenges the assumption that 3D printed homes are limited to these simple, boxy structures. The limitations are more about our imagination than the technology itself.
So they're printing the structural components, but what about all the other stuff, plumbing, electrical insulation? How do they handle that?
Ferrari explained that they work with traditional contractors for those finishing touches. It's a hybrid approach, combining the speed and efficiency of 3D printing with the expertise of skilled tradespeople.
So it's not about replacing jobs entirely, but augmenting existing construction practices.
Exactly. It's finding that sweet spot where technology and human skill can work together to create better homes.
What kind of timeline are we talking about? We know the printing can happen incredibly fast, but what about the entire process from foundation to move-in ready?
Ferrari estimated the total timeline, including all the finishing work, to be under 100 days.
100 days.
That's still significantly faster than traditional methods, which often take 6 months or more.
That's a massive time saving. I keep coming back to the implications for affordable housing and disaster relief. The potential is just huge.
It has the potential to revolutionize how we approach construction, making it more efficient, affordable, and responsive to urgent needs.
Okay, I have to ask because it all sounds almost too good to be true. Are there any downsides? What are the potential risks or challenges associated with this technology that we haven't touched on yet?
Of course, no technology is without its challenges. One concern is the potential impact on jobs in the construction industry.
Yeah, that's a valid concern. If automation takes over a significant portion of the work, what happens to all the skilled tradespeople?
It's something we need to think about carefully. As with any automation, there will likely be a shift in the types of jobs available. There might be a decrease in demand for manual labor, but we could see an increase in demand for skilled technicians who can operate and maintain these 3D printing systems.
So it's about adapting, about retraining the workforce for the changing demands of the industry.
Exactly. It's about preparing people for the future of construction. Another challenge is the regulatory landscape. Building codes and permitting processes vary widely, and 3D printed homes will need to meet those standards.
Right, we need to ensure that these homes are safe, structurally sound, and compliant with all the necessary regulations. There's going to be a period of adjustment as building codes catch up with this new technology.
And let's not forget about aesthetics. While 3D printing allows for these intricate designs, some people might still see concrete homes as kind of bland or industrial looking. How do we address that perception?
I think that perception is changing as we see more examples of beautifully designed 3D printed homes. It's about pushing the boundaries of what's possible with concrete and showcasing its versatility. And it's not just about the concrete itself, it's about incorporating other materials, finishes, and design elements to create these welcoming and personalized spaces.
You're hitting on a key point there. It's about thinking beyond the structural aspect and considering the overall design aesthetic. How do we create homes that are not only functional and sustainable, but also beautiful and inspiring?
And that brings us back to some of those other innovations we were talking about, like using alternative materials like clay. We talked about the sustainability angle, but what about the aesthetics? What kind of look and feel can you achieve with 3D printed clay homes?
Well, imagine homes with gentle curves and textured walls that mimic natural elements.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and warm, earthy tones. Think Adobe-style structures, but with a modern twist.
That's pretty
The
cool.
beauty of clay is that it can be molded into almost any shape,
Mm-hmm.
so the design possibilities are vast.
So we've got these exciting innovations happening with clay, with drones, and who knows what else is just around the corner.
Right?
But let's zoom out for a moment. We've covered a lot of ground in this deep dive. What's the one thing you want our listeners to walk away remembering?
The key takeaway here is that 3D printed homes are no longer a futuristic fantasy. They're a reality. And they have the potential to, revolutionize the construction industry as we know it. We're talking about addressing global challenges like affordable housing disaster relief, creating more sustainable building practices, and even pushing the boundaries of human habitation beyond Earth.
I mean, it's about more than just building houses, right?
Yeah,
It's about building a better future.
precisely. And that future is closer than we might think.
Here's something to ponder. Could 3D printed homes be the key to solving the housing crisis, not just in specific regions, but on like a global scale?
It's a question worth considering. The speed, the affordability, and the adaptability of this technology make it a powerful tool. Imagine being able to quickly and sustainably build entire communities, providing safe and affordable housing for those who need it most.
It's a vision that really captures the imagination, and it feels like it's within our grasp if we harness this technology thoughtfully and responsibly. So if this deep dive has sparked your curiosity, and I imagine it has, I encourage you to check out SQ4D's website. You can see examples of their work and maybe even start picturing what your future home could look like. Who knows? Maybe someday we'll be doing a deep dive into your 3D printed home.
That's a fantastic thought. And until then, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep imagining the possibilities, because the future of housing is being written right now, and it's a future we can all help shape.
Well said, and as Joe Bond says, until we bond again.